Good evening, Free Enterprise fans, and welcome to tonight's match of Bahamut X versus Vitasia. I am Girl Named Captain, and I'm here with my co-commentator, Prof. Corey. Corey, how are you doing today?
Howdy, I'm doing good. I'm very excited for this match. It's a rare opportunity where the stakes are different for both racers and yet extremely high for both regardless.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that because, Bahamut X is facing elimination in this match, so his tournament life is on the line on this one. But Vitasia has stakes of a different kind. If Vitasia loses this race, he will have one less chance to get into the table stage by not being able to go to that first hook play-in match.
And when it comes to the hook route, those play-in matches, particularly the second one, it's going to be really brutal. One person of many will make it out of that match, so having a second opportunity, or maybe I should say a first opportunity, the first play-in match, gives you a lot better odds than if you're just stuck with the second one.
Yeah, exactly. You definitely want to get into that first play-in match that has a much smaller pool of runners, if you can.
We've got some fun names for our characters. I always enjoy when people do that. I believe we have Lufia character names for Bahamut X. At least that's what we are told by our restream team. Unfortunately, neither of us were too familiar with all the characters, but I think we've heard of the series. And then on the right, Never to That Necessity Be. Oh wait, no, I'm sorry, that's not right.
Yeah, I think it's left to right. Never be afraid to get into that good trouble. Oh, and that's very cute to use the blank Fusoya spot as a quote attribution.
That is very clever, actually. I don't think I've seen that before, so Vitasia already winning points with the commentary team.
Yeah, that's a good one.
So for our objectives, we've got some interesting ones. A little bit of free, a little bit of not so free. I do enjoy when we have a mix of objectives of different difficulties or different levels. We've got an overworld check, which is available right from the start of the game. We got one that's available as soon as you get underground, and then you got one as soon as you find the pan, which could be anywhere.
Yeah, this could be a really interesting seed in terms of routing. But it looks like our runners are off. So we know about the starting Eddie. Let's see who we get to go with him.
Ooh, that's some hardware.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that is a crystal sword right off of the bat. So you know that both of these runners are going to be looking to grab that Cecil as soon as you can.
Yep, I'm one of those Team Never Cecil people, but even in this case, I would be forced to take him along pretty much the moment I find him. And with ordeals being one of our objectives, we have two reasons to go there.
Exactly. Usually a very understandable position in these flags with vanilla agility on to want to stay away from Cecil, but I don't think anyone's going to be staying away this seed, assuming one is available.
Very different things right off the bat for both runners. Bahamut X doing, I think, the more standard play, hitting Vitasia to get a couple shot checks and more importantly get those two free characters. Vitasia, though, is looking for some loot right away, heads to the Evelyn Castle. Lots of loot, a handful of trap chests that he will certainly be resetting out of, but he's trying to slingshot himself right away.
Yep, and it looks like we've actually got a vanilla Vitasia character check, which is pretty interesting. The twins Palom and Porum have joined the team.
not a bad find, certainly. The Hallam is, I think, largely considered to be one of the better characters you can find on these flags, and Porum will eventually give us a source of exit. Maybe that's all we care about. Nah, that's not fair to Porum. I have won some races thanks to Porum shenanigans, so I have to be Team Porum. I will not tolerate slander.
Yeah, in the South we respect Porum, although we do have the other white mage option here in Watery Pass. So yeah, take your pick. Rosa or Porum, which one do you like?
Don't make me make that choice. I don't want to do it.
It's an unfair question. Nobody could possibly choose. Maybe you take both of them, actually. You know, have a double source of Berserk in a seed where you're kind of looking to maybe get things going with this edge and maybe a Cecil. 2 sources of Berserk could be really good.
Vitasia immediately selling some of that loot that he picked up from the castle right away. He's able to start buying things. Bahamut X will need a little bit more time before he can start his shopping in earnest.
Yeah, and we're checking the boss in the Watery Pass. Looks like it's Bahamut. So Bahamut meeting his namesake there. Although that's a bit disappointing to see, considering that Bahamut is a pretty free boss in most spots. And so you want him somewhere a little harder than that, usually.
The loot inside the destroyed castle actually looks like it's pretty solid. You know, it's hit and miss. It's one of the lower options as far as treasure. You know, the loot is not one of the higher tier things generally, but we actually found a few good items. I particularly like that crystal ring. That can definitely help out with some agility manipulation early on in the seed. You throw that on edge, it makes them even faster than normal. Really start blowing through the overworld here, and the second edge is going to add on top of that.
Yeah, 2 edges when you have an overworld check like Mount Ordeals to make that you might want to head to pretty early. That's going to really lower the amount of power that you need to get before going over there.
And it appears our runners are converging on the Antlion Cave, each with their own advantages. Bahamut X has the 2 edges, but Vitasia has that power shirt that he picked up from Evelyn Castle. So we'll see how each of those plays out in the long run and how long it takes Vitasia to go and pick up that second edge, assuming that he wants him.
Yeah, and there was a Zeus gauntlet there I saw them pick up in the Antlion Cave. That could really boost the damage output of, take your pick, any of your melee fighters.
Lots of good loot early in this seed. Good loot, good characters. Looks like we are fighting the Dark Elf here at the bottom of the Antlion Cave.
Yep, should make quick work of this Dark Elf here. I'm also seeing Artemis arrows on Bahamut X's screen. I didn't pick up where he found those, but that is really nice to have with that Rosa in his party.
Luca Key, probably not going to be too useful under normal circumstances. When I say normal, I mean other flag sets. We might see our runners going to pursue that Luca or that sealed cave check. But under these flags, we do have the Dwarf Castle glitch enabled, and we have Dwarf Castle as an objective. So I'm sure that both of them are going to set themselves up to get that sealed cave key item for free.
Yeah, very true. And we've already got a Palom here, so as long as the runners let Palom learn Warp before going to Dwarf Castle, which can be something that slips your mind sometimes, then that's an easy check to make, and you probably don't need to use that Luca key.
You called it. Vitasia making an early play to go up Ordeals. Feels like he's got plenty of strength with that high tier gear and the edge in his party.
Yep, also picked up a strength ring on the way up there, so the damage output potential only continues to increase. Now Vitasia has found a Yang up on Mount Ordeals and has gotten rid of Edward. So it looks like going to be no Spoony Bards for Vitasia this seed.
Not surprising. It is disappointing. You do love to throw a spoon on Edward when you find it, but at least in my experience with these flags, that comes up a lot less often than you'd think. Most of the time, he's going to be an anchor or he's going to be out of your party.
Yeah, it's pretty rare to actually find that spoon when it's going to be useful. Eddie's utility is going to be limited to, say, Eddie strats for the Zeromus fight, which we are probably not very interested in this seed.
More vanilla in this seed. Imagine if you had started out finding the twins and then walking straight over to Ordeals, you wouldn't realize you were playing Free Enterprise. Well, I guess the Yang might have tipped you off, but, you know.
A minor detail.
You find Yang on a mountain, so it's close enough.
Very true. Also, Yang is a mage, a punch mage.
Yes.
Bahamut X is going around and doing some shopping, while he is now looking to fly over to Ordeals and do what Vitasia's doing, which is go up there, knock out that check real quick.
Mylon goes down, no problem. See what the back attack spot holds for us. That's usually the much scarier check of the 3 that you'll find on top of Mount Ordeals.
And looks like it's a mad scientist today. Dr. Lugay is up here testing out his robot.
A little bit annoying, but ultimately could have seen far worse things in the back attack boss spot. It means that you're going to see a lot of the dialogue. It means that they're going to have all the chances that they need to get their attacks off, when in some other boss spots you might be able to kill one or both halves of the boss before they gab too much and waste your time. But in the back attack spot, they have all the time in the world.
Yeah, but you do love to see these bosses with multiple stages and multiple fights pretty much anywhere, because it splits up the HP so much across the phases that it should be a pretty easy matter to just dispatch all of them pretty quickly.
For sure, and Vitasia already through the first phase of this boss, moving on to the second half of the Lugay fight. The one downside of running into all these multi-phase bosses is that it often means you're losing out on some experience as well. So if the runners end up having to go through a difficult hook route, they might be a little under-leveled compared to if they saw some other bosses.
Yeah, very true. That could also come up with what I mentioned earlier about Palom needing to get warped before you're going to go to that dwarf castle. I forget if it's level 27 or level 28. I think it's 28.
That sounds right, but I'll be honest, I'm right there with you. I don't remember the exact level. Usually when I'm leveling Palom at that point, like if I have eggs to work on or whatever, I end up just shooting way past there anyway, so I never pay attention to when it happens.
Well, let's hope our runners tonight are paying some attention to it. You know, we might always find sirens and be able to knock out some eggs, but no guarantees.
More vanilla, the legend sword granted to Vitasia, and a bonus round.
Wow, so yeah, that definitely makes that Luca key check totally irrelevant. The only boss you'd be interested in finding in that spot there is D-Mist. And here's D-Mist right now, so never mind about that. But yeah, great 2-for-1 special up here. That is half of an objective plus another check. Plus one objective finished.
And access to the Crystal Sword Cecil should he choose to appear at some point. So Mount Ordeal's plenty of value on this particular seed.
Still no underground access, so we'll see where Vitasia goes after that, after this check, hoping to find that underground access.
If I remember correctly, I don't think either of our runners have gone through Baron yet, so I don't think we know the character there. But I could see him going that direction next if he feels like he's powerful enough. Save a bull just in case you luck into the Magma Key. He's gonna make a shop check first, then we'll see where he chooses to go with the seed.
Yeah, I was thinking both runners would probably be pretty incentivized to fade that Fabul check on the overworld, so I wouldn't be surprised if that was the last place they went, looking for underground access. And time to see what D-Mist has for us today.
Yeah, very important to get this check done sooner rather than later. I think anybody who's run Free Enterprise can tell you a story of the time they forgot to check the D-Mist and then realized an hour later, oh wait, there's a free key item for me sitting right there in just waiting for me to pick it up.
Oh yeah, for sure. The longer you go, the more likely you are to forget it. That's a bit of a strikeout, though. The black shirt, not terrible, but it's not the progression we were looking for.
One neat feature of the Free Enterprise randomizer is that in the most recent update, the dev team has fixed a few items that didn't quite give the stats you would expect. The black shirt in the vanilla game gives white mage stats. The white shirt also gives white mage stats. So we decided to fix it in the last update. Now it's actually a black mage item.
Yep, so it is a nice piece of gear for Palom at the moment. Found illusions and star veils in the Baron shop, so that could be pretty relevant. There's also a ninja shirt, and there's our paladin Cecil.
Oh, that's pretty rude.
Welp. It's not going to be so free getting that paladin Cecil.
Vij will probably turn the battle speed down. He could probably just take a swing and knock it out, but if he wants to be really safe and just not chance it, slowing things down and getting that star bill up is a perfectly fine strategy. One downside, though, is if he only has one character left, the second boss is going to be a lot tougher.
Yeah, I expect he could also maybe find an advantage by throwing that edge in the middle slot, so that edge moves even faster than usual, and can probably just kill it with one hit, potentially.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that point up. I think both runners could gain an advantage by doing that. I think I've seen on Bahamut X's side, he's had Edward sitting in the middle slot, which makes a lot of sense if you're underground or at the harder parts of the game. But early on, you actually want that edge in the middle when you're fighting those slower bosses.
Looks like Vitasia got through with a couple of Star Veils on Edge and Yang, and we find the other Mylon behind that Wyvern, which shouldn't be too bad. He's going to be pretty punchy, but Vitasia's doing pretty good damage here.
This is one of those bosses that Yang can actually do a lot of work on compared to some other spots because he comes equipped with that Fire Claw. So I'm doing almost 1,500 damage on that first power punch.
Yeah, that is nothing to sneeze at for sure. That's a pretty clean fight there from Vitasia.
Alright, we do have a very interesting choice now. You referenced before maybe keeping 2 white mages to go with our strong melee characters, or does he choose to replace the Porum since he has the Rosa? I really don't know what the right call is here.
Yeah, I could see going multiple ways here. Looks like Vitasia is choosing to get rid of Porum. Unless that was Palom.
No, that was
Looks like it was Porum, yeah.
Bahamut X running into the exact same problem. Did take the time to rearrange the party, put the edge in the middle, if I saw that correctly, but did not act quite fast enough to prevent himself from getting Mega Nuke. So he'll slow down, have another crack at it, just like Vitasia. I expect it shouldn't be too much of a problem on the second try.
Yeah, that Wyvern can get the drop on you, but that's about all he's going to be doing this seed. And Vitasia just casually finds a ninja sword in the pot in Baron.
This is a really incredible amount of very good loot to find in the first 20 minutes of this flag set. Started with the Crystal Sword, found a Power Shirt, got a Ninja Shirt, Ninja Sword, Zeus Gauntlet, Strength Ring, Crystal Ring, Artemis Arrows. We're just loaded.
Yeah, we are loaded for bear here. Unfortunately, Vitasia's got to go up and check that for Bull now, so we are going to be potentially double dipping for Bull here.
Very interesting purchase by Vitasia there. Chooses to pick up a Drain Sword, which most of the time isn't going to be very useful, but he could throw it on Cecil and drop his agility by 5 and improve his anchoring in certain situations. So I'm curious if he's gonna knock Cecil down and keep him low level early on.
Yeah, that would be an interesting call, given... I think when you've got a Crystal Sword, you probably just want to keep the Crystal Sword on there. You know, if you're strong enough, you can kind of get away with just ignoring agility, at least at the Zeromus fight. But it might be useful in the meantime, sometime.
We also have already passed the one boss that it matters the most on, that Wyvern. Wyvern can be outright impossible if you don't have the right agility sometimes, but our runners don't have to worry about that anymore. They've already taken care of the spooky lunar boss.
Yeah, very true. That's definitely convenient. And Payman is not doing a very good job of trying to take over for Bull today. Vitasia's party just kind of looked at him until he went away.
Chazman makes a very good point in the chat. I like the way he phrase that. I wonder if Vitasia's going to remember leave Wyvern standard time. Does look like he's still on that lower battle speed that he switched to make sure he could get through Wyvern. Another thing that most free Enterprise runners have experienced is forgetting over and over again to turn that back up. And every single boss you run into, you're like, oh, should have turned that back up. Should have turned that back up.
100%. It looks like Vitasia turned it up just now, but more importantly, we got ourselves a hook. So it's looking like we gotta go the hard way underground.
Always exciting for the audience when you run into the hook route. I think an opportunity for both runners, given all the great loot that they found early on, might be to skip some of the looting throughout Cave Evelyn. The two melee characters in the party, or I guess three in Vitasia's case, so not counting Yang, but the Cecil and the Edge are already really strong. Might not really have to do that much looting this seed. So if you want to gain an advantage, you can skip having to deal with the trap chest and just roll straight through and see if you can get to those bosses at the end.
Yeah, very true. I think we're almost at the point even of being able to just beat the hook route with a couple of levels on that Cecil. That crystal sword does so much damage. We're probably going to want to take that Mad Ogre chest if we have a good way of doing that, and then it should be pretty much smooth sailing, barring some kind of disaster from the bosses there.
Another really interesting choice by Vitasia. He chose to abandon the Edge that was guarding the hovercraft, instead choosing to keep the Yang in the party. I guess I was looking for that diversity of skills. At high levels, Yang is going to have a lot more HP, so just wants to diversify. But I think that was a good case for keeping the Edge there too. There's lots of interesting character options in this seed, even with having the obvious Cecil pick.
Yeah, I can see going either way on that. I guess the argument against Edge there is that he tends to be hard to gear out properly. You're lucky if you get a couple really good swords for one Edge. Getting 4 good swords is maybe a bit of an ask. This Evelyn shop is loaded, though. It's got hourglasses and coffins.
Great things. The only other thing really that you might have wanted to find was sirens, but the Edge of the party can take care of that too. You just run into one of the trap chests in the tower, or rather in lower Babel, and steal some sirens there. So Vitasia's got pretty much everything they need. Also found that cursed ring in that very first chest. We do have Cecil in the party. We do have agility. Vanilla agility anchoring, meaning that Cecil's agility affects everybody else's, no matter what spot he's sitting in. But could still throw that curse ring on, especially if we run into some really rude bosses going through those 2 hook bosses.
Yeah, and that cursed ring is going to be a much more elegant solution to agility than that drain sword.
Or if you really need to, you could throw both on, a total of minus 20 agility, just to really get out of a tough spot.
And looks like we're stopping to do the Staleman chest from Vitasia's side, see what we get out of it.
Poison Axe, not too special. Another recent change for the Free Enterprise shop system. I say we as if I am part of this team. The development team chose to rebalance some of the cost of some items. Poison Axe is usually a very expensive item in the vanilla game, but it's not actually that good. It's kind of low accuracy, helpful for some specific boss or enemy types like ogres. So to reflect its true standing in the equipment hierarchy, it was nerfed, I guess. The price was dropped down, so you don't get quite as much for selling it.
Yeah, it is not the money axe that it used to be. And looks like we found a Rydia here in Cave Eblin, which I'd be surprised if either runner took the Rydia. We haven't found much in the way of gear for her, and we already have Palom, who's generally a better black mage than Rydia.
For sure. Really, the only thing Rydia offers early on is much quicker access to that warp spell that we discussed before, but I don't expect that's really going to be a problem by the time Vitasia or Bahamut X gets to the Wolf Castle.
Yeah, with having to go through the hook route, and looks like Vitasia is going to do the Mad Ogre chest, because he's opening chests now. I think Palom should have no problem getting to that warp spell by the time we get down there.
Mad Ogres can be pretty rude sometimes, but with those hourglasses that Vitasia purchased in the Cave Eblin shop, they are no problem. They'll each get one swing that they buffered while the item was getting thrown, and they're not going to do anything else.
Yeah, and this should be huge experience for Vitasia's entire team.
Bahamut X, meanwhile, looks like he stopped to do more shop checks on the overworld. I think he's got through most of them, doing one more here at the other way to get underground. And then I imagine he'll be picking up his hovercraft and heading over to Cave Eblin.
I think Vitasia did life glitch at least 2 of those ogres, if I saw right. One of them I think he missed, and the other 2 I think that he got. As well as finding a light sword in that chest, which you're not going to put on Cecil having a crystal sword. But Edge can throw it, so it's not that useless as you might think it might be.
For sure, and when in doubt, you can always sell it. No need to throw it on Cecil when we have the far superior crystal sword. So one way or the other, Vitasia's gonna get some use out of that item.
Yep, and we'll see the first boss here. Looks like it's a hook route guarded by double lunar sparkles. First one being Plague, which shouldn't be too bad with the damage we're now dealing.
I don't know whether Rosa has Berserk yet, so Vitasia may have to resort to another strategy here to deal with the Plague's Doom spell cast on the whole party. Plague is a cool boss. There's a few different strategies. The easiest and most straightforward one is just to get Berserk cast on your fighter characters, and thanks to the dark sorcery that is the agility system of Final Fantasy IV, those characters will never tick down to death. They'll sit at 0 and just stay there swinging away. But without access to this Berserk spell, Vitasia goes with the other common strategy, maybe one of the more intended one of knocking out characters and then picking them back up again, prompting Plague to recast the Doom spell, resetting the counter. Vitasia gets through, no problem.
Yep, and no big deal that Rosa was dead. There's no experience at that spot anyway.
And the D-Lunars are happy enough to give a full heal to the party after that. This is an interesting problem for Vitasia. He would love to just swing away with the Crystal Sword Cecil, but the moment you use the fight command on the D-Lunars, they're going to switch to their virus phase, and that could be a real problem. So instead, Cecil is going to stand back, let Yang throw a power punch. Edge will throw that light sword like you talked about before. We'll see if he can kill one of them. There is a lot of HP to chew through here. This might be a little bit of a grind.
Yeah, I was wondering if Vitasia, do you sit back and just wait, put up your Star Veils and try to get the Lunar Frog strategies going, or do you actually try to just power through and actually kill them without reflecting the breath?
I was wrong before. Rosa does have Berserk, so that is an option. I think he was thinking about it there. He hovered on it, but thought better of it.
Probably for the best. It is tempting.
Uh-oh.
Oh no. Yep. Vitasia did not get those Star Veils up, and now his entire party is frogs.
This might be tough. Yeah, I don't think there's any coming back from that. Vitasia resets and is going to have another go at this. Notably did not save after the Plague Boss, so he's going to have to go through that again. Shouldn't be difficult, but it is going to cost him a little time.
Yeah, that's going to let Bahamut X potentially gain some ground on him.
I'm really glad that we ran into the D-Lunars in this spot, because a Crystal Sword Cecil tends to solve a lot of problems just by sheer brute force. But this is one of the ones that he can't. I'm glad that the runners are going to have to adapt a little bit here and not just let Cecil destroy everything in his path.
Yeah, that is one of very few bosses left in the pool that could throw a wrench in your Crystal Sword Cecil strategy. I'm trying to think who else could do that. We've seen Wyvern. Golbez could be kind of a problem, but even then, probably not.
The Valis in certain spots is going to be hard to hit with melee characters. I don't know, that might just about cover it.
Yeah, we'll see if Vitasia wants to go for Lunar Frogs this time. I think he maybe just got the timing away from him and didn't realize they were about to do the breath attack before.
This time reaches for that Berserk spell. He's going to take a chance. Cecil will do a lot of damage to these demons, weak to that holy type damage. But if Cecil doesn't get through them fast enough, it could be a problem.
Interesting to note, unless I just completely missed it, I don't know that Bahamut X did the Mad Ogre chest. It looks like he might have. His levels are fairly similar to Vitasia's.
Oh wow. Cecil credit for quad 9s. This Crystal Sword Cecil doing his best to prove me wrong. Does not care about the D-Lunar's strategy.
Yeah, he heard us talking about him and he took it as a challenge.
Yep, disregard, no problem. Crystal Sword Cecil is the solution to all your problems.
Yep, and Vitasia is through this hook route as Bahamut gets through that plague fight. Notably, Palom doesn't know Warp yet. I noticed Vitasia's Palom did not learn it from that fight, so we won't be able to go straight to Dwarf Castle.
Vitasia taking a moment to peek at the boss at the top of tower. We have a blue rope, which could be really easy or still easy but really annoying. we might be dealing with the Water Hag or an Alcon.
Yeah, I wonder if he maybe turns around and goes after that, because that's a pretty high experience spot. And with the team being as high powered as it is now, you could just, kill a Water Hag really quickly, get the rest of the levels for Palom, and then go to Warp Castle from there. So the Keyless Tower could be an interesting play here.
Yeah, I think the very first order of business is going to be figuring out how to get levels. I think you're exactly right. That probably the easiest option, if it presents itself, is finding sirens in one of these underground shops. So while he's picking up his free item from the rat tail chest in the Fey March, he'll also get a chance to see if he can buy those here. If he can't buy them, he could go for the route of stealing them in the tower using that edge. It is going to be slower, but it is a guaranteed grind method.
And that is a vanilla rat tail there.
That is an item that Vitasia can go turn in and get another check, thanks to that hook that both runners had to use to get underground. On Bahamut X's side, takes the slow and steady route through blinks on some characters, and yeah, there's the lunar frogs that you talked about before. A discovery by the Free Enterprise community. This is not really known about for a very long time, but you can bounce the breath spell back onto the D-Lunars and turn them into frogs. This basically ends the fight. They cannot fight back anymore.
Yeah, this used to be such a scarier boss before lunar frogs were a strategy. The D-Lunars really could be a bit of a nightmare at certain locations, probably this being one of them. But yeah, that trivializes the fight in most locations. Also of note, we have a very rude Fey March today. The king spot was Antlion, which I don't think anyone is going to want to do. And the queen spot was CPU, which I also don't think anyone is going to want to do.
Yeah, in the category of bosses that complicate berserking a Crystal Sword Cecil, CPU is definitely high up on the list. Cecil will, as long as he's back row glitched, still do plenty of damage. You just can't berserk him, probably. Otherwise, you risk killing off the smaller parts of the CPU, the attacker and the defender, triggering its Globe 99 counter.
And we found some Bacchus wines here in Tamra,
That is an
which
excellent
is huge. Yeah, that is easy berserks for the rest of the seed.
Vitasia parks in front of Dwarf Castle, doesn't heal up yet though. Makes sense, as we've discussed numerous times. Really wants to make sure he has that warp spell on his Black Mage before he actually goes through with this, so he can get the 2-for-1 special. So he'll just come in and check the shop. Cabins are nice, but no sirens.
Yep, so I can't help but wonder if we're gonna head over and maybe do that tower grind, steal some sirens, maybe kill whatever's on the top of the tower.
Good call by you. That's exactly where Vitasia's going.
And we get to see where Bahamut's going to go first, now that he's through the hook route as well. Looks like Fey March is the pretty predictable early stop.
Yeah, not too much difference between our two runners here. They really just have a handful of shop checks separating them. Bahamut X also benefit from getting through that D-Lunars on the first try rather than having to go back and kill both bosses a second time like Vitasia. The Sneak Fest begins. Trouble, aka Edge, is going to try to steal some sirens from the alert. In Final Fantasy IV, you can steal as much as you want from a single enemy. They will never run out of the item that they have available to steal. So you can get as many of these as you want.
Oh, interesting. And Bahamut just sold his curse string in the store. Maybe not such a bad move, really. Like I talked about earlier, you can, with something like Crystal Sword Cecil, you can absolutely get away with kind of ignoring agility if you've got enough levels.
Yeah, and as we're seeing with Vitasia, there's a guaranteed way to get as many levels as you want, as early as you want in this seed. You just have to invest the time in it. So I think you're right. Maybe that curse ring is just better off as cash for other things.
And Bahamut noping out of that Fey March real quick.
Vitasia doing one small time-saving measure, throwing an hourglass on the alert so that it stops it. Of course, the alert's not going to fight back, but it is going to keep popping up with that message at the top to slow you down a little bit. Also, making sure that it doesn't summon something. Not that Crystal Sword Cecil was going to give it an opportunity.
Yeah, and I like this play by Vitasia of not spending too long stealing those sirens. He got a pretty decent stack of them, but you're really not going to need that many in this seed, realistically.
Agreed.
And Bahamut, considering going all in, buying a huge stack of Bacchus wines. We did also get the Job Dwarf check, so both seeds have been validated from both of these runners. The Job Dwarf was a foreign language teacher today.
Valuable skills, especially in the diverse underground.
Yep, you got to be able to translate from rally ho to whatever that means in English.
Vitasia killed exactly as many eggs as he thought he needed, which I think was 1, and is now ready to go through the dwarf bosses. This will be his second completed objective, and it will also be 2 key items once he takes advantage of that warp glitch.
And we've got an Ashura here at the first spot. Pretty hard-hitting boss in this location. Gets a lot of attack power. And looks like Bahamut is a little conflicted about where to go next. Started going up the tower, but now is reset and headed over to Sylph Cave. So I guess it's going to do Sheila 1 and maybe turn in that rat tail up there. So we could have some divergence here.
Yeah, this could send both runners in very different directions depending on the 2 key items that they each find.
And we're through that Ashura without too much trouble. Gonna see who this Dwarf Castle character is, although I don't know that Vitasia would be too interested in modifying this party at this point.
I think you're right. I think Vitasia's probably set. The Yang is really the only question mark here. We find an edge, but Vitasia already turned down an edge once before, so hard to imagine him doing it again. Or rather, not doing it again.
Maybe he was just waiting for the right color palette, but apparently this one wasn't the right one either.
One of them, for sure. Alright, Bahamut X making the first of his 2 free overworld checks. We'll see what it gets for the rat tail. The pan!
Wow, that's pretty big. So fade Sheila 1 at your own peril.
Alright, with that, Bahamut X... Well, that's not Sheila 1, that is the rat tail check. He still has to
you're
check
right,
Sheila
I'm
1.
sorry about that.
That said, that means Bahamut is almost in go mode. The one thing we're missing is a way to get to Threemus. We either need a darkness crystal or the pass.
And Vitasia's gotten himself an Earth Crystal from the first Dwarf Castle check. Warp glitches in and finds an Assassin Dagger, which not really so useful at this point.
Earth Crystal is very interesting. I talked about looting a little bit before. It is very hard to turn down the Troya Treasury. Sorry, much more important things came up. Bahamut X finds the pass. That's go mode.
Wow, yeah, that's really big for Bahamut X.
Right, now, I don't think Vitasia's going to lose too much time, unless he forgets to check the rat tail, because he's going to do Sheila 1 now. He'll probably do the same thing Bahamut X did and just go pick up that hovercraft as soon as he gets back to the overworld. But Bahamut X has the advantage of knowing that he's ready. All he has to do is get strong enough to beat the game.
Yeah, it should be a pretty short path from here to the end of the game at this point.
It is very, oh, you know what? Never mind. I was about to say something. No, actually, no. I take it back. It is interesting that he's choosing to turn in the pan. Because he doesn't need these items. All he needs to do is go beat Dwarf Castle and level up. But he is taking the chance that maybe he finds something useful. Maybe by the time he finishes Dwarf Castle, he'll have 10 key items. I don't think he's going to get there at this point, with only 5 in hand right now. But it was maybe worth a shot.
Yeah, you never know. Seeds this short tends to be a little harder to get that 10 key items. It looks like Vitasia's turning in his rat tail, so gonna get the good news about that pan.
It's really hard to call who's got the advantage right now, because Bahamut X has more knowledge, but he also hasn't completed Dwarf Castle and hasn't even gotten Sirens yet to steal. Or rather, hasn't stolen Sirens yet to level up, which is what I assume he's going to do now that he's walking into the tower. On the other hand, Vitasia has powered up some, but also probably needs to power up more. I'm not sure if the 10 Sirens that he stole before was going to be enough to cover him for the Z fight.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. Well, Vitasia has that Yang, who he could maybe completely ignore the rest of his party besides, say, Yang and Cecil. Let Yang throw Cure 3s, Berserk Cecil, and that might just be enough right there, even without levels on the other ones.
One other small advantage for Bahamut X, although with a race this close, it might be a big advantage, is he's well, sorry, the edges took themselves out. Most of the time, that little tick of damage you get for failing a skill sometimes doesn't really matter. It's just adding injury to insult, if you will. But when you're at 1 HP, it actually matters. What I was going to say was that Bahamut X has 2 edges in his party and took the time to knock out some of his less thieving party members so he could cycle through the 2 edges more quickly and pick up those sirens more than twice as fast as Vitasia, I'd say.
Very true, although now Vitasia's going over throwing coffins on these eggs. Shouldn't be a long grind, so we'll see what he wants to do after that.
To flip it back to Vitasia's decision-making, the Yang can't help him steal sirens, but once he's at Z levels, might be churning out more damage than Bahamut's second edge. You called it before when you said that equipment is hard to come by, and I think that the second edge on Bahamut's team is just using short swords right now.
Yeah, I can't remember if Bahamut found that ninja sword either, which I think was the only real piece of really nice edge gear that I noticed. Chasman says that Bahamut got the ninja sword as well. But yeah, the second edge is probably not going to be doing the most stellar damage at the Z fight, even when berserked.
One other consideration as the runners both work on their preparation for the Z fight is how high they choose to level their Cecils. For Threemus, your anchor being at certain agility amounts tends to be useful. So a common strategy when you have one Cecil is to get him to exactly 28 agility by getting him to around level 47 or so, and then just stopping him right there, just to optimize the turns for the rest of your party. On the other hand, as we've referenced many times, this is a Crystal Sword Cecil, and Crystal Sword Cecil cares not for your rules and your agilities and other such nonsense.
Yeah, very true. It's something I'm wondering about as well. And from earlier, Bahamut X did sell that cursed ring. So it's possible that Bahamut could want to level to higher levels than Vitasia, just to get that power overwhelming really online to the point that he'll need it.
Charlotte Butler makes a great point in the chat. With a Drain Sword on hand, you can equip that on Cecil at the start, so if his natural agility is 33, drops him down to 28, and then just flip over to the Crystal Sword at the start of the fight. That's a way to kind of get the best of both worlds, get some higher levels, but also have an ideal agility setup. It looks like Vitasia's running into that exact problem I mentioned before. He did not have quite enough sirens for the grind he wanted to do, so he's going to have to make a second trip into the tower.
Yeah, and Bahamut is still in quite a few sirens here. So I don't think he's going to have to come back for any more. Now it's just a matter of how fast can he go and do that dwarf castle. gonna do all those sirens first, I imagine, then go knock out Dwarf Castle, and then head to the Z fight.
This is going to be extremely close. I really don't think I could call it right now.
Yeah, definitely not. This is gonna be a close one. I think this will probably come down to how the Z fight goes for each runner.
Looking back on this seed, I think the big takeaway for me is that even though we had Crystal Sword Cecil, even though the runners had the Great Equalizer, the solver of all problems, there were still lots of interesting small choices, things that they did differently, which might end up mattering at the end. You know, choosing to keep 2 edges instead of an edge and a yang. Choosing to steal 10 sirens versus stealing them all at once. The order that they chose to do things, Bahamut X going to check those free overworld items while Vitasia hit the Dwarf Castle early. Those small things will add up into the final difference in this race.
Yeah, absolutely. This is one where with such a fast seed, like all those little decisions just get kind of amplified in their importance. And speaking of that, actually, Vitasia got another ninja sword out of that second trap chest, which Bahamut did not have to do. So that actually will boost the damage of that edge even further.
Had a question in the chat asking about agility for the Z fight. Chat is correct. That was a mistake that I made in one of my early streamed races. Was thinking that all right, multiples of 14, so 14 is good, right? That was not right. 14 is not a good number, but any multiple of 14 from 28 onwards is quote unquote good in terms of setting up the rest of your party's agility.
Yeah, 14 is definitely not the dream agility.
Alright, Bahamut X appears to be done, so he's going to make the trip into the Dwarf Castle. Still pretty close. Vitasia is probably close to the end of the grind. Probably give him the edge here. But I really think anything could happen. If the Z fight goes south for him, that will be a huge window for Bahamut.
Yeah, and I gotta wonder, how long does Vitasia want to prolong his grind? This is one where every siren you do that you don't need to do will cost you significantly, or could.
Shoutouts to Randomania rating the Free Enterprise channel. Welcome. We are in the final stretch of a very jetty seed. Both runners are in go mode. They did things in a little bit different order, but really they just have to take care of a couple things. If Vitasia has to finish his grind, Bahamut X has to get through Dwarf Castle, and then probably do a little bit more grinding himself, and they're both ready to head up to the Zeromus fight. To give a little bit of a recap of how we got here, this seed we started out with Edward and Edge, and were granted a crystal sword. So both runners right away were trying to find Cecil. They each made an early play to get up or deals, so that when they eventually found Cecil at the Baron Inn, he was ready to go. Found a hook through Fabul Castle, the castle defense. Both runners took care of the 2 lunar bosses guarding their way to the underground, and then eventually through the rat tail, giving the vanilla rat tail reward, turned that in, got the pan, and completed the rest of their objectives.
And it looks like with that, Vitasia is done grinding, is heading up to Troya, which means that we have a pretty important question to ask.
Truly, one of the great questions of our time. What is the purpose of humankind? Are we alone in the universe? And whose butt are we going to kick tonight?
These are the big questions. Get your Z flags out in chat so we can find out the meaning of life.
Looking at Vitasia's setup here, did choose to go in with some scary HP totals, particularly looking at that Rosa with just under 2,000 health, with an unnerfed Big Bang that could be a problem.
Yeah, and I don't think we really found a whole lot of good white mage gear, so her magic defense is probably not particularly high. Oh, that's adorable. I think this is the world of Final Fantasy summons.
Yeah, you're right. Mirageness. I haven't seen this one before. This is great.
This is a new one to me as well. I really like this one. And Vitasia is off to the races. That Crystal Sword Cecil is hitting for 6,000 damage a swing. Yeah, I think that this might be a pretty fast one. Unless something goes sideways here.
Yeah, I think there's really only going to be one potentially scary moment. I imagine with this damage, Vitasia is going to get through the refill before a second Big Bang, and then Threemus is going to have one Big Bang right before the end, and then maybe leading into Meteor phase. So that's the danger spot right there, is if he gets hit with an unnerfed Big Bang and then goes right into Meteor afterwards without having the time to heal up, or maybe if the Rosa goes down. If you can navigate that tricky situation, I think Vitasia's going to have this wrapped up.
For sure, and I've seen Big Bang into Meteos wipe even Crystal Sword Cecil based parties, so it is a danger. Palom doing his part by reflecting viruses off of himself.
Yeah, never had a chance to get to that nuke spell, so he's going to do what he can. Looks like I miscalculated a little bit. Actually, Threemus is going to get a Big Bang before that HP refill. Crucially, the Rosa stays up. That's the number one thing in this fight, is does the white mage stay alive?
Yep, but we do have an HP ran out tick on that edge, so that's a bit of a damage hit there. But as long as Cecil's alive, that's the main thing.
Just go with that Life 2 spell to get Edge back up at full HP. Does take some more time, but manages to get the cast off. We'll see if Edge survives this next Big Bang.
And we do have another shake. I don't know if Threemus is going to manage to get another one out. Looks like it's coming out.
Oh, and he gets the Bacchus one on edge. That means there's nobody left to pick up Rosa. I think a black hole is going to come out here. He might have a small window to recover, but it's going to be tight.
Yeah, now we're in the trouble zone. A meteor right now would be a big problem, and as I say it, of course.
Alright. Chooses to go for the Cure 3. I think that's the best move. I think trying to take time to pick up Rosa is going to be a little bit too dangerous, but so close to the end of the fight. Just heal up Cecil, get him swinging again. I think Vitasia's going to get this.
Yeah, should be safe from here. Got those Cure 3s out. Maybe just a couple more swings and we'll be alright.
And that's it for Vitasia. The hero of the seed, the Crystal Sword Cecil, finishes that up. Vitasia finishes just over 108 GTs to Vitasia, who will be moving on to the first hook route play-in with an official time of 108.10 seconds.
Very GG's to Vitasia. Impressive finish there.
Oh, thank you so much. I was, a little bit nervous there at the very end of that Z fight.
Yeah, so were we. That was a little bit of a tight spot you were in there for a second.
Yeah, that was, I was super nervous. I was kind of counting the HP and thinking, okay, I'm close to rocks after Rosa died, so I purchased a few Cure 3s early, and I knew I didn't burn them, so just get some Cure 3s and hope for the best, and Crystal Sword Cecil, guys. Always trust in Crystal Sword Cecil, especially when the seed gives it to you.
Yeah, I guess that's where we should start asking about what went into this seed. Like you said, you were given that Crystal Sword right at the very start, and we noticed that you made an early play for Ordeals. Was that just because of the objective? Did the Crystal Sword play into that?
So, my first play right out of the gate is at least recently has been to go check Castle Eblin. I saw Chuck Asura do that a few races ago and started practicing with it and absolutely fell in love with what that did to my early game. So I always start out with that, but after that, it kind of depends on what my party comp is. Having an edge early, I was really confident, go ahead, go do Antlion or whatever, but yeah, Edge can pretty well solo Ordeals on his own, and then I had a power robe on him, so I was like, okay, well, this just looks like a good idea. I didn't start getting nervous until that Wyvern in Baron Inn. I was like, okay, battle speed, turn down, and it wasn't anything, but I was like, Crystal Sword Cecil is worth it. Like, I will absolutely do it. And that ended up being my way through that very kind of ugly D-Lunar fight. Like, I thought about going back and trying to do reflect strats, and then I'm like, what am I worried about? I have a Crystal Sword Cecil, zerk him up and just survive.
Yeah, we were wondering about your perspective on that D-Lunar fight, because the first fight was a bit unfortunate there, and we were wondering whether you were going to try to switch to Lunar Frog strats or whether you were going to try to just power through it. So your perspective was just have him swing away.
Yeah, I mean, Crystal Sword Cecil, he was doing quad nines, even to the back row when he was served. So, I figure 1, maybe 2 hits. If there's 1 round of reflected viruses off, I think I could deal with that. So that's kind of what I budgeted for when I was going through it all in my head. And I thought, yeah, that's the right play. I'd considered doing the Lunar Frog strats when I saw that breath was what killed me, but as I'm running back, I'm like, why am I hesitating? I have Crystal Sword Cecils. Swing for the face.
Understandable. That definitely was the theme throughout the commentary for this match, with Cecil with the Crystal Sword proving me wrong at points. Yeah, I was sitting there in the middle of that D-Lunar fight saying, I don't know, Zerking Cecil might not be a good idea here, because then they'll start throwing the viruses, and no, that was totally irrelevant. Crystal Sword Cecil solves all problems. That was definitely the theme of this seed. One other interesting choice that you made that I want to ask about was your character choices. What jumped out at me was choosing to keep that Yang instead of taking on a second Edge, even before you went underground. What was your thought process there?
So my thought process was Yang is really good at higher levels. I think a lot of people undervalue Yang, especially if you have if you have a cat claw, and then I was able to kind of scavenge enough equipment for him to increase his strength even more. My thinking there in ditching two Edges kind of throughout that is that Edge takes a lot of gear to really get online in terms of, what's he swinging with. You got to have two swords to really get him fully online. And I'm trying, I knew this was a go mode seed. I didn't have time to shop. So Yang, in that regard, with the equipment that I already had, I figured by the time I'm at Z, we'll be doing as much damage as an Edge, even with moderate equipment that if I just happen to pick up. He will be doing more damage if I don't pick up anything, and there really wasn't. I only found 2 ninja swords in the whole game, and that was enough for my 1 Edge, and I'm perfectly fine with that.
Yeah, I think that was a really heads-up play, recognizing that you really didn't want to spend much time looking for gear for another Edge, and you ended up with the perfect amount of gear for 1 Edge, and not 2. So, that was a good call.
Yeah, I mean, I felt good about the play. I have been actively in practice trying to reduce my treasure chest count in these flag sets. I typically run around 70 to 80 chests opened. This one I was really happy. After you roll through the credits, I was at 53, which is a low for me. And that, I think, it really showed me being able to get through everything as quickly as I could. So it was fantastic.
Yeah, that's a great point. In these Jetty seeds especially, keeping your looting as low as possible often makes the difference. And I think that might ultimately be what it came down to in this seed. I think you and Bahamut X did a similar amount of looting, but Bahamut X played it a little bit safer on the overworld, spent a little bit more time going to check all the shops, got underground a little bit later. So even though he was able to get through pretty much all the bosses all right, just didn't quite zip through everything the way you did.
And that's, I credit, my group, Team Tritalk, for really putting me through the paces. I went 0-3 in groups, and in doing a lot of my review, I noticed that I was doing a lot of treasure chest checks. So big shout out to my group for all the game film on myself, knowing what my weaknesses were. I appreciate you guys so much, and our group's been doing fantastic in the tournament so far. So
I love the team pride. That's great. And I didn't realize that you had gone 0-3 in your groups to now 3-0 here in the hook rat. That's a pretty significant turnaround. So congratulations on your improvement.
No, I appreciate it. I've been fortunate to have the time to do a lot more practice recently after being out of the game for a year and a half. So absolutely fantastic to be able to get into it, shake a lot of that rust off. Sometimes in a randomizer, even, it doesn't matter if you're new or you've been playing this game for years. Every now and then you need to just shake some rust off and, take some hard hits and hard lessons. But the important thing is to learn from it and improve. So I know there's a lot of newbies out there. If you want to try it, don't be afraid to take your lumps, because I promise you will get there. Yeah,
that's a great message, showing that, if you're really working at it, you can get a lot of improvement in this game pretty quickly. And you're definitely an example of that. So speaking of that, now you have the chance for 2 play-in matches to get to the table stage. How are you feeling about that?
So, group matches are so much different than one-on-one matches. You know, one-on-one matches, it's all about doing something that someone else that you don't think your opponent didn't do. So it's trying to do film study and figure out what they do, and try to optimize things that you think is against their pattern. Group stages, I mean, when you're in a group race, it's just a crapshoot, man. Like, you have to be efficient, you have to make the good calls, but every now and then, just making a wild gamble paying off, that typically is what happens for winners in group races like that. So it's going to be a wild one. I'm looking forward to it. I'm guaranteed to, unless I win the first one, which we'll see. There's an underrated amount of a fantastic talent in the Hook group that are all getting ready to be 3-0. So it's going to be one heck of a race. I think we all know what we're doing, and it's terrifying.
Understandable. We appreciate, by the way, your post-game checks. You gave us a chance to rate that treasure, and now we're also getting to listen to the Black Mage Village theme.
Yeah, I mean, I know we didn't get to check either, and I wondered how much people were like, is he going to check Earth before he does Z? No, guys, I was fine with my gear. But I figured the post-checks of checking those would help you guys out, because for the memes, I know how you guys are, chat.
Chat loves their memes, and yeah, we definitely appreciate going and checking those out. Yeah, so any final thoughts about the tournament going forward? Your performance here in the group stage? Just anything you want to say?
No, I mean, just to summarize, I'm really happy with my performance in group stages. Bahamut X and Magius and all of my opponents, both here and in the group stages, you've all been fantastic runners. I've been scared to death of every single one of you. So great job to all of you guys. A final shout out to all the admins, the commentators, the trackers. I love working with all of you guys behind the scenes. And I'm sorry I'm not helping out more, but I'm actually racing. So thank you all. And thank you, chat and the community, for everyone. I'll see you guys at the next race, I guess.
Well, and thank you, Vitasia. Thanks a lot. We will see you around.
I think this is a great time to shout out the folks behind the scenes. Girl named Captain, obviously it's been great co-commentating with you, but we can't forget about the folks handling our tracking. Chazman89, doing his best to be thorough. Appreciate going back and ticking off that Baron key, even if it didn't matter. And Leggy Starscream on the restream. Thanks so much for your help.
Yeah, huge thanks to everyone behind the scenes, and to Corey for commentating with me. Thanks, Corey.
It was lots of fun. This is a good one. Bahamut X, I think, is racing toward the finish. Similar setup as Vitasia. Rosa HP a little bit higher, but she does go down there. I think he had a chance to throw a life potion on her. So if he can get some healing, and I think he's going to be good for the rest of this fight.
Yeah, the fight's been going on for a bit, so I can't imagine that Threemus has much left in him. And it looks like we got that Cure 4 out there, so I think we're going to be okay from here.
Newkirk's a little bit, but it's not enough to slow down Crystal Sword Cecil, the undefeated hero of Free Enterprise.
Yep, this Crystal Sword Cecil is unstoppable.
Bahamut X, I think, choosing to play it just a little bit safe, rather than zerking up that last edge, holds on to his turn just in case he needs him to throw some items out, get that Rosa healed back up.
And here come the rocks, so it's almost over now. There's the flash, or at least the shake and the crumble. Bahamut X is done. GG's to Bahamut X. We will see if he can get in here for an interview.
Yeah, very well done by Bahamut X. That was up. And I think we're joined by Bahamut X now. GG. Very well played. That was a pretty fast one, but I think you handled it well. How are you feeling about that seed?
Thank you. Yeah, it was pretty fast. It was a fun seed. I want to say I probably looted a little too much. I grinded too many sirens, but I can't complain too much. I think I played pretty well to my ability. So I'm just glad I think I'm really glad that I think my levels were a little bit lower than I usually like to do. But I saw that when the Vitasia won, I'm like, hey, let's go for like, I think it was like 46 or something like that. Let's do it. And hey, I was good enough. My items, things were good. So I'm glad I got through it. So it was a good race. And GG's to Vitasia.
Yeah, it was a very well-run race by you. Anything stand out as being notable in your decision making? There are some differences in your party compositions between you and Vitasia. I think you had a second edge, and Vitasia had a Yang.
Mm-hmm. I think hindsight, I maybe would have kept the Yang, or I pondered about getting that Yang from Hobbs, but I'm like, no, let's stick with the characters we got, because the reason why I thought maybe it would have been nice to have Yang, then maybe I could have done even less levels. Then I would have had just Cecil, Rosa, Yang, and Yang be the potion, the chemist, and I can have lower levels. I'm like, no, we're good. I'm just, probably one thing I will say is I'm really glad that, what was it? I was about to do Keyless Tower, and I'm like, wait a minute, I have Rat Tail. I should go check that. And I'm so glad I did.
Yeah, we saw you reset out of that.
Like, yep, no, let's go check Rat Tail. You know, that could be something big, and it was. So I'm glad I did that at least.
Yeah, that was a really fortunate call. Yeah, so unfortunately, it looks like this was your last match of the tournament, but I think you went out on a note that you can really be proud of. Anything you want to say about the tournament as a whole, looking back on it?
It's been a really fun time and a great experience, and I wish I did better, but you know, it was a lot of fun. And good luck to everybody remaining in the tournament. I'll be watching a lot of future matches, and I hope to volunteer more here too, since I got more free time.
I really like your attitude too about how you said you want to push yourself at the end of the season, just kind of go in a little bit uncomfortable, but still feeling like you could do it. I think that's one of the best ways that runners can improve. So I look forward to seeing what you do in the future.
Thank you, and thanks to you guys, going to Captain Corey, Leggy Starscream, and who was the tracker? I'm sorry.
Chazman.
Chazman, thank you. I'm looking at the screen. I'm like, I'm used to seeing it scroll through, and I don't see it scroll. So thanks to you guys for the restream stream, and thanks for making this restream possible.
No problem, and we're looking forward to seeing you in all of your future races, Bahamut.
Thank you. Yeah, definitely will participate in the next one.
Well, I think that'll about do it for us over here on the Free Enterprise channel, but if I'm correct, I think we're going to be heading over to Randomania 2. We got one more race in the works.
Yep, we've got Y2 Sky versus Twisted Flax over on Randomania 2. So yeah, enjoy that match and make sure not to spoil anything from this match. And thank you very much for tuning in, as always.
It was a lot of fun. Have a good night, folks.